Yuka, you are starting off with the UK and India. They've clinched a major deal, and it's happening, of course, in the shadow of Donald Trump's global trade war.
Well, the world's fifth and sixth largest economies have finalised a free trade agreement after more than 3 years of negotiations. The leaders of both countries have hailed the landmark deal that aims to boost bilateral trade by about 30 billion euros a year. The deal will reduce trade barriers between the two countries and will also allow British firms to compete for Indian government contracts and Indian workers to more easily work in Britain. Luke Traeger has the details.
5 years after Brexit went through, the UK has clinched a major free trade deal with India. London said it should see bilateral commerce boosted by the equivalent of over 30 billion euros a year from 2040.
This is the biggest trade deal that we, the UK, have done since we left the EU, and it's the most ambitious trade deal that India has ever done. And this will be measured in billions of pounds into our economy.
For starters, that will include drastically reducing Indian tariffs, among the highest in the world, on 90% of UK imports, like cosmetics, clothing, medical devices, aircraft parts and certain foods. In particular, duty on whiskey and gin in the world's largest Scotch market will fall by half, from 150 to 75%, and then scale back to 40% after 10 years. Automotive tariffs will also drop from over 100 to 10%. As Indian Premier Narendra Modi hailed the deal, inviting his British counterpart for a visit, India's Trade Ministry stated that 99% of its exports to the UK would face no tariffs under the deal at all. The UK is to slash duties on Indian textiles, footwear and food, and agreed to exempt temporary Indian workers in Britain from social security contributions for 3 years. It all caps 3 years and 13 rounds of negotiations that repeatedly stalled before both sides gained new focus and a sense of urgency after Donald Trump began levelling tariffs at virtually all the US's trading partners earlier this year.
Meanwhile, the US trade deficit, it's widened to a new record.
Yeah, this was probably no surprise. It was probably expected as American companies rush to buy foreign goods amid the threat of new tariffs by Donald Trump. Official data out today covers the month before sky-high levies on China and a baseline 10% global duty kicked in. Overall deficit rose to $140.5 billion, up 14% from February. It's almost twice as much as the amount back in October of last year. Imports of consumer goods and pharmaceutical products increased by far, both up by more than $20 billion. On the other hand, imports of industrial supplies and finished metal shapes decreased. As a reminder, Donald Trump's 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium took effect on March the 12th.
Next, Yuka, the European Union is set to propose a blanket ban on Russian gas imports.
Well, Brussels says it's time to completely cut off its energy ties with Russia, and on Tuesday published a roadmap outlining how it plans to do so. The continent's dependence on Russian gas led to a major energy crisis after the Kremlin invaded Ukraine and cut off its gas supplies to the EU in 2022. Since then, the bloc has drastically cut its imports of Russian energy, with a total ban on coal and the reduction of oil imports to just around 3%. But last year saw a rebound in gas imports from the country. Next month, the European Commission will propose legal measures to phase out all Russian gas by the end of 2027. It has also pledged to take more action against Russia's so-called shadow fleet of tankers carrying oil. Let's take a listen to the Energy Commissioner.
Today, the European Union sends a very clear message to Russia. No more. No more will we permit Russia to weaponize energy against us. No more will we allow our member states to be blackmailed. No more will we indirectly help fill up the war chest in Kremlin.
Let's finish with a quick check on the markets.
Well, global stocks mostly traded lower this Tuesday. Wall Street extended losses for a second straight session as comments from Donald Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent provided little clarity regarding progress on trade talks. Investors are also focusing on the US Federal Reserve that is set to announce its latest interest rate decision and economic outlook on Wednesday after a 2-day policy meeting. And that's it for business.